Happy Thursday, everyone. Today, we are going to continue with Chapter 5, where we last left off. Gregor and Boots and Vicus were discussing how there are entryways into the Underland through 5 different locations, and that's how he was able to figure out that Gregor came from New York. So here's where we left off here. "It's in my laundry room," Gregor blurted out, "right in our apartment building." Somehow the fact that his laundry room connected to this strange place made him feel kind of invaded. "Your laundry room, yes," said Vicus thoughtfully. "Well, your fall coincided most favorably with the currents." "The currents? Do you mean that misty stuff?" asked Gregor. "Yes, they allowed you to arrive here in one piece. Timing is all," said Vicus. "What happens if the timing is off?" asked Gregor, but he already knew the answer. "Then we have a body to bury instead of a guest," said Vicus quietly. "That, in truth, is the most common outcome. A living overlander like yourself, plus your sister? Well, this is most singular." It took a good 20 minutes to reach the palace, and Gregor's arms began to tremble from carrying Boots. Somehow he didn't want to put her down. It didn't seem safe with all the torches around. As they approached the magnificent structure, Gregor noticed there was nothing carved on it. The sides were as smooth as glass, and the lowest window opened 200 feet above the ground. Something was off, but he couldn't quite place it. Something was missing. "There's no door," he said aloud. "No," said Vicus. "Doors are for those who lack enemies. Even the most accomplished climber cannot find a foothold here." Gregor ran his hand along the polished stone wall. There wasn't a crack, not even the tiniest nick in the surface. "So how do you get inside?" "We usually fly, but if one's back cannot accommodate." Vicus gestured above his head. Gregor craned his neck back and saw that a platform was being rapidly lowered from a large rectangular window. It caught on the ropes that supported it about a foot from the ground, and Vicus stepped aboard. Gregor climbed on with Boots. His recent fall to the Underland had only reinforced how much he disliked heights. The platform immediately rose, and he grabbed hold of the side rope to steady himself. Vicus stood calmly with his hands folded before him. But then Vicus wasn't holding a wiggly 2-year-old, and he'd probably ridden this thing a million times. The ascent was rapid and even. The platform leveled off at the window before a small stone staircase. Gregor carried Boots inside a large room with vaulted ceilings, and a group of 3 Underlanders, all with the same translucent skin and violet eyes, waited to greet them. "Good late day," said Vicus, nodding to the Underlanders. "Meet you, Gregor and Boots, the Overlanders, brother and sister, who have most recently fallen among us. Please bathe them and then proceed to the High Hall." Without a backward glance, Vicus strode out of the room. Gregor and the Underlanders stared awkwardly at one another. None of them had Lux's arrogance or Vicus's easy, commanding presence. "Okay, they're just regular people," he thought. "I bet they feel as weird as I do." Nice to meet you," he said, shifting Boots over to his other hip. "Say hi, Boots." "Hi," said Boots, waving to the Underlanders and looking completely delighted. Hi, you." The Underlanders' reserve melted like butter in a skillet. They all laughed, and the stiffness went out of their bodies. Gregor found himself laughing too. His mom said Boots never knew a stranger, which meant she thought everybody in the world was her friend. Gregor sometimes wished he could be more like that. He had a couple of good friends, but he avoided becoming part of any one clique at school. It all came down to who he ate lunch with. He could have sat with the guys he ran track with, or the band kids, but instead he liked being with Angelina, who was always in some school play, and Larry, who mostly he just drew stuff. Some people who didn't really know him thought Gregor was stuck up, but he was mostly just private. He had more trouble opening up to people after his dad left, but even before that, He'd never been as friendly as Boots. A young woman, who looked about 15, stepped forward and held out her arms. I am called Dulcet. May I take you, Boots? You would care for a bath? Boots looked at Gregor for confirmation. It's okay, bath time. You want a bath, Boots? He asked. Yes, said Boots happily. Bath! She reached out for Dulcet, who took her from Gregor's arms. Meet you, Merith and Perdita, said Dulcet, indicating the man and woman next to her. They were both tall and muscular, and although they didn't carry weapons, Gregor had a feeling they were guards. Hey, he said. Merith and Perdita both gave him formal but friendly nods. Dulcet wrinkled her nose and poked Boots gently in the tummy. Ooh, you have need of a clean catchcloth, she said. Gregor could guess what a catchcloth was. Oh, yeah, her diaper needs to be changed. It's been a while. She's going to get a rash. I poop, said Boots without apology, and tugged on her diaper. I will attend to it, said Dulcet, with an amused smile. And Gregor couldn't help thinking how much nicer she was than Luxa. You will follow to the waters, Gregor the Overlander. Yes, thank you. I will follow to the waters, said Gregor. He was struck by how formal he sounded, and he didn't want the Underlanders to think he was making fun of them. The roaches had been so easy to insult. Yeah, thanks, he said. Dulcet nodded and waited for him to fall in step behind her. Merith and Perdita followed a few steps behind. They're guards, all right, thought Gregor. The group left the entrance room and walked down a spacious hallway. They passed dozens of arched doorways that opened into large chambers, staircases, and halls. Gregor quickly realized he'd need a map to navigate this place. He could ask directions, but that wouldn't be too smart if he was trying to escape. They could call him their guest, but it didn't change the fact that he and Boots were essentially prisoners. Guests could leave if they wanted to. Prisoners had to escape. And that was exactly what he intended to do. But how? Even if he could find his way back to the platform, no one would let him down, and he couldn't jump 200 feet to the ground. But there must be other ways to enter this palace, he thought. There must be. I have never met an Overlander before, said Dulcet, interrupting his train of thought. It is only because of the baby I meet you now. Because of Boots? Said Gregor. I take care of the young ones for many, said Dulcet. I would not usually meet so important a person as an Overlander, she said shyly. Well, that's not too bad, Dulcet, said Gregor, because you're the nicest person I've ever met here. Dulcet blushed, and boy, when these people blushed, they really blushed. Her skin turned pink as ripe watermelon. Not just her face, either. She colored to the tips of her fingers. Oh, she stammered, very embarrassed. Oh, that is too kind for me to accept. Behind him, the two guards murmured something to each other. Gregor guessed he had something way out of line, but he didn't know what. Or he had said something way out of line, but he didn't know what. Maybe you weren't supposed to imply a nanny was nicer than the queen. Even if it was true. He was going to have to be more careful about what he said. Fortunately, just then they stopped at a doorway. He could hear water running and steam wafted out into the hall. Must be the bathroom, he thought. He looked inside and saw that a wall divided the room into two sections. I will take Boots, and you go in there, said Dulcet, indicating one side. Gregor guessed it must be girls on one side, boys on the other, like locker rooms. He thought maybe he would stay with Boots, but he felt as if he could trust Dulcet, and he didn't want to upset her again. Okay, Boots. See you soon. Bye-bye, waved Boots over Dulcet's shoulder. Clearly she wasn't having any separation anxiety. Gregor veered off to the right. The place did kind of resemble a locker room, if locker rooms were gorgeous and smelled good. Exotic sea creatures were carved into the walls, and oil lamps cast a golden glow. Okay, but it's got benches and lockers, sort of, he thought, taking in the rows of stone benches and the open cubicles that lined one side of the room. Merith had followed him in. He addressed Gregor nervously. This place is a changing room. Here are the rooms for relief and cleansing. And can I get you anything, Gregor the Overlander? No, thanks. I think I can figure it out, said Gregor. We shall be in the hall if you have need, said Marith. Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, said Gregor. When the Underlander ducked out the door, he felt the muscles in his face release. Huh, it was good to be alone. He made a quick inspection of the place. The relief room only had a solid stone chair with an opening cut in the middle. Looking inside, Gregor saw water ran continuously in a stream underneath it. Oh, must be the toilet, he thought. The cleansing room had a small steaming pool with steps that led down into the water. A fragrant smell filled the air. His whole body ached to get into the water. Gregor quickly returned to the changing room and stripped off his sweaty clothes. Feeling self-conscious, he peed in the toilet. Then he hurried to the pool. He tested the temperature with his toe and slowly walked down into the steamy water. It reached his waist, but he discovered the pool had a bench around it. When he sat down, the water licked his ears. A current washed over him, releasing the knots in his shoulders and back. Gregor cut the surface of the pool with his hand, and the water ran through his fingers. Like the water in the toilet, it flowed in one end of the bath and out the other. It must be some kind of underground stream, he thought. He sat straight up as the idea hit him. The water came from somewhere. It went somewhere. If water could get in and out of this place, maybe he could too. And that's the end of our chapter. We will read chapter 6 tomorrow. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. I'll see you later.